as U.S. lawmakers double down on support for Taiwan's defense. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
Taiwan's opposition leader landing in Shanghai, welcomed by Chinese Communist Party officials, then quickly heading inland.
China is actively intervening in their elections. They're actually courting some of the leaders to bring them over to mainland China.
Chung Lee-won is framing her 6-day trip and potential meeting with CCP leader Xi Jinping as a journey for peace, but critics say it plays right into Beijing's hands. China expert Gordon Chang saying she's in China to sell out her country. That's because her party, the Kuomintang, or KMT, is widely seen as more Beijing-friendly than to the ruling party under President Lai. The KMT is holding up a $40 billion defense package in parliament, even as China is ramping up its military drills near Taiwan.
Xi Jinping has said to his military to be ready by 2027 to take Taiwan by force if necessary.
The U.S. recently approved its largest ever weapons sale to Taiwan, worth $11 billion. But that means nothing if the island's KMT-controlled parliament won't pass a defense package. A group of U.S. lawmakers is now on the ground in Taiwan, led by Congressman Zach Nunn, a harsh critic of the CCP. Just last week, a bipartisan group of senators was also in Taiwan, meeting with President Lai.
We are concerned by the increased pressure from Beijing, including military activity around Taiwan.
The lawmakers pushing Taiwan's parliament to pass its defense package, warning delays could weaken deterrence against Beijing.
I'd like to personally endorse the special defense budget and tell you back in Washington, D.C., that my colleagues are watching.
And as President Trump prepares for a high-stakes meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping next month, all eyes are on whether Taiwan will take front and center. For NTD News Washington, I'm Jack Bradley.
Grant Newsham, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you back on the show.
Well, glad to be here.
Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story, China's Xi telling Taiwan's opposition leader the island is part of communist China during their first meeting in a decade. Taiwan's government is warning about the regime's true intentions.
The Chinese communists are deliberately creating the false impression that Taiwan is an internal affair of China in order to confuse international opinion.
U.S. lawmakers pushing for a massive defense boost for Taiwan. It's vital for the island to defend itself in the event of a Chinese invasion. The main hurdle is Taiwan's opposition party, whose leader is currently visiting China. What does Taiwan's opposition leader's visit to China signal to the West? Grant Newsham joins us to unpack what's at stake. And Japan downgrading China ties in its latest 2026 report. It comes after months of rising diplomatic tensions over Taiwan. Taiwanese opposition leader Chung Lee-won met with Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping on Friday in Beijing. Her party, the Kuomintang, is known for its pro-Beijing stance. The two sides repeatedly reference the One China policy without clarifying whether it refers to Communist China or Taiwan's Republic of China. Taiwan's incumbent government, a firm U.S. ally, is closely watching the developments. NTD's Flora Hua has the key points from the meeting.
Leaders of China's Communist Party and Taiwan's opposition party, the Kuomintang, delivered a unanimous message. Both sides want peace, not conflict. But peace on whose terms? In Xi's view, Taiwan is part of China, a claim Taiwan's government rejects. Here's what Taiwan's opposition leader Chung Lee-won said after the meeting.
The only political foundation for cross-strait exchanges and dialogue is adherence to the 1992 consensus and opposition to Taiwan independence.
The 1992 consensus is an implicit agreement that both Taiwan and China belong to one China without specifying which China. The Republic of China is the official name of Taiwan's government, and the Communist Party, which rules mainland China, officially known as the People's Republic of China, has never acknowledged that. China's Xi has not ruled out annexing Taiwan by force and has directed multiple live-fire drills around the island in recent years. Another key point from the meeting, the Taiwan Strait.
The Taiwan Strait will no longer be a focal point of potential conflict. nor will it become a chess piece played by outside world.
Chung's stance echoes Beijing's, which labels the waterway an internal issue. Beijing regularly sends warships and fighter jets across the median line of the strait, threatening the Taiwanese government. The U.S. and its allies consider it international waters and sends ships through the strait to uphold freedom of navigation. The waterway is among the world's busiest shipping routes and served as an energy lifeline to U.S. allies like Japan and South Korea. More from the meeting, Chung also said she respects the differences in social systems and ways of life between China and Taiwan. This echoes Beijing's approach to Hong Kong, known as one country, two systems. But today's Hong Kong is no longer free. Critics of the communist regime have been jailed. Taiwan's top China policy official made this statement after the Xi-Chung meeting.
The Chinese communists are deliberately creating the false impression that Taiwan is an internal affair of China in order to confuse international opinion. Chairman Chen echoed the CCP's narrative and praised the CCP's governance achievements. This not only runs counter to Taiwan's mainstream public opinion, but also stands in stark contrast to the international community's concern for peace in the Taiwan Strait and its opposition to CCP coercion.
A U.S. Senate delegation recently visited Taiwan, supporting the island's proposed $40 billion defense budget, the largest in its history. Chung opposes that defense bill. Flora Hua, NTD News.
Tensions rising across the Taiwan Strait, U.S. lawmakers are now pressing Taiwan's parliament to approve a major defense spending package as China ramps up military pressure and Taiwan's opposition leader visits Beijing. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the story.
There's growing concern in Washington that delays in Taiwan's defense spending could make the island more vulnerable to an attack from the Chinese Communist Party. Taiwan's Democratic Progressive Party, which Taiwan's President Lai is a part of, is working to pass its largest ever defense budget of $40 billion. But the opposition party, the Kuomintang, or KMT, which is widely seen as more Beijing-friendly, doesn't even show up to the defense budget meeting, so it couldn't pass. A few months ago, the Trump administration passed a record $11 billion weapon sale to Taiwan. But that really can't pass unless the KMT, which controls Taiwan's parliament, agrees to it. Meanwhile, China continues near daily military drills around the island, sending military jets and ships. But U.S. officials say that these aren't just exercises, but rehearsals for an invasion. Senator Jim Banks just met with President Lai in Taiwan, calling on Parliament to pass that budget to send a message to Beijing.
Your legislative yuan has to do its part and pass the special budget. And that's one message that I want to send to your leadership. When you pass the special budget in the legislature, that is a signal to China and to the rest of the world that Taiwan is serious about peace through strength.
Senator Banks is just one of several bipartisan U.S. lawmakers visiting Taiwan over the past couple weeks, all of them warning that delays in defense spending could undermine their ability to deter China.
I'd like to personally endorse the special defense budget and tell you back in Washington, D.C., that my colleagues are watching.
We are concerned by the increased pressure from Beijing, including military activity around Taiwan that raises the risk of miscalculation.
Now, while the KMT is skipping parliament meetings and blocking that defense package, the head of their party is in China, meeting with CCP officials. Critics say that the timing of the opposition leader's trip and the stalled defense funding is meant to weaken Taiwan's position. U.S. officials warn that the window for Taiwan to strengthen deterrence against China may be closing, especially as China continues to escalate military activity around the island. For NTD News Washington, I'm Jack Bradley.
Billions in defense, warships on the horizon, and freedom on the line. What's at stake as Taiwan's opposition leader visits China? And what does it mean for the upcoming Trump-Xi meeting? Retired Marine Colonel Grant Newsham joins us to unpack what's next. He's also the author of When China Attacks and senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy. Grant Newsham, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you.
中共国台办主任宋涛接待到访的国民党主席郑丽文，双方在7日晚宴中提及九二共识等统战论点。台湾国安局长分析，中共核战两手策略达成分化目的。
那第一个是分化台湾的内部社会，来提升所谓亲中路线的这种声量，那也可以来进一步的来 所谓阻挡然后对美军购案的一个推动。那第二个分化是在分化台美的一个合作，那透过这样的一个交流活动来塑造两岸对于合统还是有一定的一个相关的一个意见存在，来弱化美国介入台海情势或是针对台海议题的一个相关的发言权。
而中共在东海大范围划设禁飞区长达40天，蔡明燕说，该做法具有高度战略意图，意在取得川习会谈判筹码。
中共也是利用这个机会在测试美国相关活动的一个状况。那另外，因为空域保留区一直划设到5月6号，几乎就是在川习会的前1周，那所以这一部分可能在政治上也是在试探美国在川习会之前在印太地区相关空域活动的状况。
中共试图在军事上试探美方，同时在政治上透过台湾在野党访问，建构两岸和平论述，在5月川习会前企图掌握区域话语权。现场人亚太电视黄亮简、刘思莹，台湾台北报道。
但叙述啊，你的。